Welcome to China in Focus. I'm your host, Tiffany Meyer. As the coronavirus spread around the globe and claimed yet more lives, the World Health Organization on Wednesday declares the outbreak a pandemic. As we take a closer look at the distribution of cases, though, the loss seems to be sharply different among countries. Today, in this special report, we ask some questions that you might not think of. Why do Italy and Iran, both thousands of miles away from China, rank as the two most affected countries? What about South Korea and Taiwan, both very close to China, but one now has nearly 7,800 cases and the other only less than 50? What have they done differently? Today, we go deep and try to find the answers to these questions. Italy, a country that was promised big investments and business opportunities by China, is now facing some of the most severe challenges from the virus that first started in China. The European country is suffering from a climbing number of infections, and the entire nation is now under lockdown. For a while, China has been the darling of Italy. Last year, the country welcomed Chinese leader Xi Jinping with a state dinner and cavalry escort. Italy joined the Chinese regime's Belt and Road Initiative to attract Chinese investments, despite warnings from the European Union and its American allies.
There are many things about China's economy we can learn from. Its economy is growing so fast, and it has very strong support.
And Italy dismissed concerns that opening its doors to China would let in a Trojan horse.
I think China rise and even China strong and even dominance in those technology efforts will benefit everyone.
Italy even invited Chinese police to patrol its streets.
Chinese police officers in uniform on patrol alongside Italian officers. It's part of a program designed to make Chinese tourists feel safer when traveling to Italy.
I think this is a kind of protection for the rights of Chinese citizens and a sign of a powerful country.
Before Italy had time to see benefits from the Belt and Road Initiative, the coronavirus hit. The European country is one of the worst affected by the Chinese regime's cover-up of the outbreak. There are over 12,000 people infected with the coronavirus in Italy. More than 800 people have died as of Wednesday. And now the entire country is under lockdown.
Stiamo affrontando un'emergenza nazionale.
Restaurants closed, tourism sites empty, people queuing up to buy food and other goods, some 60 million people feeling the impact. This is nearly 2 months after the Chinese authorities admitted that the coronavirus is contagious. A Chinese official last week disclosed that over 3,000 healthcare workers were infected by the end of January, contradicting the authorities' prior statement that there is no evidence the virus can spread between humans. Italy suspended all flights to and from China on January 31st. On February 6th, China's ambassador to Italy wrote in a local Italian newspaper attacking such travel restrictions. He called them lies, the panic generated by prejudice and discrimination that causes wounds and losses that are difficult to heal and compensate for. The Chinese ambassador also went on Italy's national broadcaster Rai to talk about China's so-called achievements in controlling the outbreak. Some Italians are not happy with the situation.
China has definitely been opaque in its communication, and in doing this, it has made no distinctions between its so-called allies or certain Western fools.
He said it shows that dependency on China can be problematic, not only in terms of trade and economy, but also in implementing public health measures.
Because it is not a safe country, it is not a transparent country. And its membership in the WTO means it does not respect any rules, and that it uses them all to its own advantage. Now they are doing the same, even in world health emergencies, to a certain degree.
Italian parliamentarian Del Mastro said gifts from China often don't turn out well. Beijing's Belt and Road Initiative has brought countries into debt traps. 5G raises national security and data concerns, and now...
Today we know that we cannot even be certain in terms of health anymore. I think it's time to completely review the relationship with China, and imagine that Europe must now inject so much liquidity into the real economy to reindustrialize Europe and make it independent from China. Tomorrow, once the problem of the coronavirus health emergency is over, we will have to face the problem of our companies that can no longer produce because pieces of that production are made in China.
However, not everyone is willing to let go of that tie. According to a media report last month during the Milan Fashion Week, the National Chamber of Italian Fashion launched a campaign with the slogan, "China, we are by your side."
We miss a lot of consumers, so that is a quite difficult issue, especially for those small, medium brands that they count very much on China, and at the moment they have a difficulty on monthly reviews.
A top government official there recalled how China was a very important partner for Italy and said he regretted the absence of the Chinese due to the travel ban. To make up for that, this event is live streamed to the Chinese audience through WeChat and Weibo. In Iran, officials say more than 350 coronavirus patients have died, while 9,000 people have been infected. The country is currently struggling with the second highest number of confirmed cases in the world outside mainland China. It's second only to Italy. Along with Italy, Iran signed on to China's New Belt and Road Initiative. The country is a key part of the project's Middle East presence. China has been helping Iran build railways, highways, and bridges. Lots of labor, mostly made up of Chinese immigrants, has flooded in, and the city of Qom has become a transport hub for this traffic. The city later became a potential origin of Iran's outbreak. Local health officials say the country's first patient was either a Chinese worker in Qom or an Iranian businessman from the city who traveled to China. An article from the Wall Street Journal says the strategic partnership with China lies at the root of Iran's coronavirus outbreak. Several high-ranking officials in the regime have been infected. That includes the deputy health minister, who had condemned the so-called rumor that 50 people had died from the virus. He made the claims during a news conference where he appeared to have fallen ill. The next day, he announced that he had tested positive for the virus. Now in South Korea, the government is facing criticism for the way it has handled the coronavirus outbreak. On January 20th, South Korea confirmed its first coronavirus infection. The same day, its president, Moon Jae-in, donated 2 million masks to China. Moon reassured his citizens that the outbreak would disappear quickly.
불안해하시지 않아도 된다는 것을 거듭 약속드립니다.
Not long after, the situation in South Korea worsened amid a severe mask shortage. People began waiting in long lines to buy them. South Korea didn't stop exporting the masks until over a month later on February 26th. In addition, the government issued strict lockdown measures for one of its outbreak centers, the city of Daegu. Meanwhile, despite taking in millions of Chinese tourists each year, South Korea's government has yet to announce travel restrictions for passengers coming from China. According to South Korea's official figures, over a third of its international tourists come from mainland China.
There's an interesting link between the economic dependence on China in some countries and their ability to handle or respond to coronavirus. South Korea, and this is more of a trade dependency, less Belt and Road specific, has been a particularly interesting case where the South Korean government has really struggled to both address coronavirus domestically while not trying to antagonize China and out of fear of economic retribution. And this has caused political blowback against the current administration in South Korea.
Many South Koreans say they're enraged, saying Moon's handling makes them feel like he is the president of China, not South Korea. An online petition asking him to step down has now collected over 1.4 million signatures. The outbreak also caused some automotive factories in South Korea to close their doors after they became unable to get production parts from China. Moon Jae-in is known for his pro-Beijing policies and friendly attitude towards North Korea. He hardly commented on Beijing's human rights abuses against the people of Hong Kong and Xinjiang. Since the start of his presidency in 2017, South Korea has been increasingly attracting investments from China. Though it's less than 100 miles from China, in contrast with South Korea and Japan, Taiwan has only 48 cases and 1 death from the coronavirus as of Wednesday. Researchers and experts say it's because of Taiwan's quick and proactive response, transparency, and caution about the Chinese regime. With 23 million citizens and hundreds of thousands of them working or living on the mainland, and nearly 250,000 visitors from the mainland each month, Taiwan was expected to have the second highest number of cases of the coronavirus. A Stanford study credits the low rate of incidence to the Taiwan government's quick response in recognizing the crisis, taking action early, educating the public, and being transparent. As early as December 31st, the same day China notified the WHO about an unknown pneumonia, Taiwan health officials immediately ordered inspections of passengers from direct flights from Wuhan, the Chinese city where the outbreak first began. On January 12th, an expert team was sent to China.
结果那个时候他们的回答是说是有限度的人传人，还记不记得他们的讲？可是回来这个消息回来以后，我们的专家会没有，他就是人传人的。我们那时候已经定调是人传人的。
On January 26th, 5 days after its first confirmed case, Taiwan banned arrivals from Wuhan before any other country.
Taiwan took measures earlier than any other country because the Taiwanese government has a clear understanding of the Chinese Communist regime.
He says Taiwan learned the lesson of the 2003 SARS outbreak, got well prepared, and is using that experience this time.
Also because it's excluded from the WHO, Taiwan can only rely on itself, and it wasn't misled by the WHO and didn't believe the propaganda and numbers from the Chinese Communist regime.
Just about the same time, at the beginning of the outbreak on January 11th, Taiwan's current president, Tsai Ing-wen, defeated her pro-Beijing rival in a landslide victory. Many see this as a result of Taiwanese voters wanting to distance themselves from the Chinese Communist regime. Hong Kong was also able to limit the spread of the disease, despite people frequently traveling to and from the mainland. As of Wednesday, it has 126 confirmed and 3 deaths. Officials say they learned from the SARS outbreak, and the government took measures as early as January 4th. Like Taiwan, Hong Kong's pro-democracy candidates claimed a huge victory in their recent election last November, as citizens continue to reject interference from the Chinese regime. One China expert recently testified at the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, saying the Chinese Communist regime's disinformation and global censorship has resulted in real costs to global public health and safety.
It's a feature of the Chinese Communist Party system. It's not a bug. The system is built on lies and is afraid of the truth. So the truth, even when it comes to talking about the coronavirus, part of the reason I think that we're facing a greater virus is because there was a cover-up in China for a matter of almost 2 months.
He adds that the communist regime has constructed this massive propaganda and censorship apparatus because it considers the truth to be dangerous. As countries around the world struggle to control the coronavirus, we can't help but notice those with close ties to the Chinese Communist regime seem to be paying a higher price. As today's Epoch Times editorial pointed out, the heaviest hit regions outside China all share a common thread: close or lucrative relations with the communist regime in Beijing. As China expert Gordon Chang pointed out in a recent forum,
I think that what we are seeing is essentially the Chinese people understand that the disease, of course, is coronavirus, but the real disease is communism.
And as we start to reflect on the outbreak's global situation, it appears the cost of standing with the Chinese Communist regime outweighs the benefits. A better understanding of the regime might just be the antidote the world has been looking for. Here at China in Focus, we bring you first-hand information from inside China. Don't forget to subscribe for the latest updates.